When we speak about adapting to changes, would you adapt your 7 secrets in any way? I mean, Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, wrote the book The Eighth Habit. Would you add any eighth secret to your book?
Absolutely. And in fact, I did in the 7 Secrets. It's the mystery that will unfold if you're in a dynamic relationship with your children.
The TontoNet Podcast.
When you're in a conflict with your spouse, do you feel unloved at that moment or disrespected?
This is what research is telling us.
We were a family that laughed together.
How would you like to be a child growing up in this world?
The TontoNet Podcast, hosted by Maciej Kucharek.
Dzień dobry, witamy w ojcowskim podcaście.
Hello and welcome to the Fatherhood Podcast. We've got something special to celebrate today. TontoNet is turning 20 this year, and to mark the occasion, we're joined by a truly exceptional guest. Dr. Ken Canfield is the founder of the National Center for Fathering in the United States and the author of The 7 Secrets of Effective Fathers, a book that has transformed the lives of thousands of dads around the world, including here in Poland. First published 22 years ago, it's still making an impact. In just a moment, we'll talk with Dr. Canfield about whether those 7 secrets are still the key to fatherhood success today.
Hi, Ken.
Hello.
I'm very happy that you accepted our invitation. Thank you again.
You're welcome. I'm delighted always to speak to Polish fathers and leaders.
You published your book, The 7 Secrets of Effective Fathers, 22 years ago. After such a time, are that 7 secrets still valid in your opinion?
Absolutely. As you will find in fathering, much of the work that we do as dads is evergreen. In other words, it continues to show beauty despite the environment, despite the change. However, I will say as we grow in our culture, many things like war, like screen time, like issues that our children and future generations will face are much different. So the application of those secrets has a different approach. And that is what I believe we need to discuss to make sure our fathering is current and applicable.
That was one of my questions. Time changes. Over the last 20 years, we have experienced a real revolution. It seems for me to be much harder to be a father right now than it was 20 years ago, probably. What changes in our approach we should implement to make that 7 secrets still work for us?
Well, first, as you know, the most important thing that a father can do is recognize what he brings to the table, what he brings in his heart, in his manner, in his behavior. And part of the beauty and the power of fathering is that children will challenge and bring change to that. If a father is adaptable and willing to change, what he can do in a dynamic way is apply those secrets. For instance, one of the secrets is commitment. Now, a father's commitment may ebb and flow during the life cycle of the child. Because when you have small children and the mother is nursing, the commitment is much different than when that young child becomes a teenager and where a father is vitally needed during those times of change. But the commitment that entails both the quality and quantity time, nevertheless, is the same. And so as a father continues to yearly assess his fathering commitment, this is something that will endure despite the issues in the bigger culture that are facing him and his family.
When we speak about adapting to changes, would you adapt your 7 secrets in any way? I mean, Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, wrote the book The Eighth Habit. Would you add any 8th secret to your book?
Absolutely. And in fact, I did in the 7 Secrets. It's the mystery that will unfold if you're in a dynamic relationship with your children. Many of our children will face challenges that that we haven't faced. And by us being open to that eighth secret, and how do we stay open to it? By dialogue, by active listening, by attending to that child's mother. And we see in American culture the impact of divorce in families, unprecedented, and we have more shared parenting challenges than ever before. And when we understand how that mystery or that dynamic is going to change our application, and then we adapt to it, we are going to be an effective father. And so as we grow in this process, it actually brings a sense of maturity and also a sense of stability to our children.
Even if I agree, I would say that the growth hurts sometimes. So, we sometimes also say that the fatherhood is like a marathon. You start with an enthusiasm, you have a lot of power, and all the good things in your head. But after a time, you need to look for a source of strength for yourself to endure the most difficult moments. Where can we find that source of strength for us?
TatoNet has been novel and refreshing by saying we need fathers in groups who are willing to discuss the challenges. Vulnerability and openness about those challenges is one of the best things you can bring to the table of your fellow fathers. And to the extent that we share much in the same way that mothers may share the challenges of having a young child, as our children mature, a man who's involved in a fathering group will have a sense of safety and protection that other fathers who are what we would call lone rangers will not enjoy. That's one way right there.
When we meet with fathers in our groups, that kind of meeting takes part every month. We meet for 2 hours within fathers, and we speak about what's happening in our houses. And I can say from my own experience, and when I met when I'm meeting fathers, I feel that I'm normal again. I mean, sometimes problems in my house seems to be bigger than me, but then when I sit with other fathers at the table and they say, "Oh, I have the same in my house," I feel okay. So that's normal. So we can do it. Okay, why not?
Yes. There is a saying that hungry wolves like lone sheep or sheep that's separated from the herd. And to the extent that we separate ourselves and become lone sheep, we're vulnerable to just the issues which the culture present that may overwhelm us, notwithstanding the challenges we're facing with our own children, wives, and family system. And so, to the benefit of those fathers who are willing to meet and be transparent and vulnerable, that will be something that will distinguish you as an effective father.
TatoNet supports men in discovering their vision of fatherhood. How would you advise men in Poland how to discover that vision?
Vision comes by listening and watching those things that your children are facing, and the adapting of that vision will again be an important point of what I call the flexibility within fatherhood. We do know that one of the challenges all cultures who have been faced with technology is how do we monitor and make sure that screen time does not overwhelm and take place in a superseding way with the relational and the personal time. And so there need to be boundaries and ideals set. And so for vision, what you need to do is constantly assess what is that vision and how has that changed. As your children begin to enter into other relationships with other children, what is the quality of those relationships? Are those good friends? Are those positive relationships? Or relationships that you know as a father by your own personal experience could be dangerous and upend that child's healthy development. And this is particularly true as boys and girls begin to interact during an age when there is a vitality, a desire to connect, which they may not be prepared for, particularly for boys mentally, to understand that commitment and easily fall into what I would call a trap of doing something easy as opposed to doing something right, which may be more difficult.
Searching for our own vision, it could be, of course, adapting to what my children say and listening actively to them and looking at them all the time. But again, isn't it looking into my own heart, maybe at the prayer or at the meditation and asking myself what I would like my children would engrave on my grave when I'm dead? Something, the most important thing that would last in their hearts.
Absolutely. A few fathers that I meet that are my age that now have grandchildren look back on their lives and say, I wish I would have spent more time at work. I wish I would have spent more time in my hobbies and in my happy pursuits. No, they say, I wished I would have spent more time relationally building and strengthening my family with my children. And so, to this extent, you're always reviewing vision because vision is a dynamic. What is so exciting is when that dynamic is lived within a living heart and has housing there, that makes something that you desire a reality because you're in tune. You're in sync with that child as we face, the trauma. I particularly have been concerned about Polish culture being in a place next to a culture that is being fragmented and destroyed by another power, and families are decimated. And just having that proximity also brings a concern and fear for Polish children that need to be talked about, that fathers can bring to the table healthy discussions about how do we handle those things that we can't control, and what is our role as leaders to help those who are in need.
One of the secrets says that we as fathers should be the people in our house that would handle the crisis. The crisis would come anyway to every house. So our job is to be prepared and be patient and be stable to give our family a safe ground to grow.
Absolutely. The role of consistency is that when things that you don't expect happen, what is our response? As a father, because you are vested in that role and name, there is another father, a father that has spiritual power that he wants to endow you with as a dad. And that consistency is so important and so good because the chaos and the turmoil that will face all of our children will beckon them to look for something that is consistent and predictable. And that's one of the secrets that, again, distinguishes you. Are you willing to enter in and recognize crises will come, and that your response is to know this will pass, this will change. But in the meantime, when things are difficult, have we adjusted and said, we must do this and we must be prepared for this because it will require you as a father to change the way that you are many times expressing your heart to your children.
How do I know as a father if I'm doing my role well? When do I know that I'm the kind of a father that my children need?
You'll know that by your children's recognition that they not only desire, but they benefit from your relationship with them. A father's best feedback are, first of all, those things in his heart that he knows he must do and must fulfill. But others around him, like the mother of those children, is the team player that is the most important human asset. That's recognizing that mothers have a different approach to what we would generally call parenting, and we need to understand and respect that. Nevertheless, fathers too have unique insights into that child's development. So, in the broader sense, when fathers do not have a relationship with their child's mother, and I'm thinking of divorce or separation, other fathers and other family members who know the father and the children can be a huge benefit and asset as they maneuver through, as they trudge through, in many cases, difficult times. However, if you have the privilege of having a dynamic relationship with your child's mother, that's the best possible scenario. So, developing that relationship, of course, entails the fifth secret is loving the mother of your children. Even if she has done something that is disagreeable, still respecting and loving her is what a father must and should do if he is able.
What I was going to ask you, it was more about how can I recognize that I'm doing my role well because I can see something's happening with my children, something's good. Let's say, if I see that one of my child is aggressive or too aggressive, let's say, maybe I'm doing something wrong. And when I see my children really happy and willing to share and something else, maybe I should think to myself, okay, I'm doing my job well. How can I recognize that I'm the father that my children really need?
The father in his heart, as he pursues the relational quality, will know if he is doing the right thing. What is so powerful is we have sacred literature that tells us that if we commit our hearts and we bless our children, and at the same time discipline and set boundaries for our children, those are the original designs of what another father, God the Father, has designed dads to apply. And so that standard, above all, through God's Spirit, through the activity of another father in your heart, will lead you to do the hard things. For instance, an aggressive child may challenge you to say, have I been aggressive? Have I done something, or is there something in our family heritage or system that brings out this aggression? If there is none, then you need to recognize this is something that your child has internalized and they need help in order to present both a calm and respectful behavior. And this doesn't happen overnight. It takes consistent discipline and guidance from a father and his leadership to help an aggressive child break that aggression that's negative and direct that passion in ways that are positive. And so the litmus test, of course, is the relational quality that you have and the feedback from others that is so important. So having open hearts and open minds to those things that your children are facing, again, is vital for your fathering, what we would call litmus test.
Let's have a look at the end on the fatherhood from the sky view. Is, in your opinion, fatherhood in better shape than it was 20 years ago? In USA, in Poland, in the world?
Well, I would say this is the best of times. You, Tatonet, have risen to give direction to something that has been dormant, expected, but not fully understood. And so I would say for those that are involved in Tatonet, they're enjoying the fruits of conversation and connection that your fathers and grandfathers did not have. And for them, it is the best of times. At the same moment, we have more children that have been abandoned, abused, and fathers have abdicated. They are caught in this cultural chaos themselves. For them, it's the worst of times. And you see generationally how fatherlessness can impact and be in a negative way. Currently, I'm working with incarcerated men in the United States. these men have committed crimes. And in the confinement of prison, it becomes a father to them. It disciplines them because they can't go anywhere. They can't do the things that you and I and a free father can do. During that time, our hope is that they come to a recognition that there is something generationally that has impacted them, and their response has been negative. And so, as they are released from prison, I'm working with two groups of fathers. One group have had a spiritual change in their heart during their incarceration. And they have recognized, oh my, not only should I repent and feel sorry for the things that I've done, but there is a better way. And there is positive hope out there. But that can't be realized unless I take my role seriously and walk the straight and narrow path. And then there are another group, again, that haven't had that experience and have done what has been expected of their crime. They've done the time for their crime, but they get out and they're no different because there hasn't been a change in the heart. And they do the recidivistic behavior that leads them back into prison. And so these also are somewhat characteristic of fathers. Are we going to be free? Are we going to be walking in what we know is right, that has spiritual roots and depth? Or are we just going to float along again and hope things will change with never really applying ourselves or our heart to that change? That, I think, represents fatherhood too.
What comes to my mind when I'm listening to you is that as a fathers, yes, we need to take the narrow path, and we need to look at our hearts day after day and checking whether everything is all right in our heart. Are we still committed to our children or not? Are we on the right path or not? It does not seem for me to be an easy way, to be honest. Yes, but I think that's the only way we should take as a fathers.
It is the right way. And the right way and the narrow way is not always the easy way. Many times fathers defer their fathering to others around them. The school teacher and schoolmaster cannot be a father. The coach cannot be a father. And I'm always taken back by John Paul's biography in this sense. When his mother died and when he was motherless, it was his father, he said, who became his first seminary, his first teacher. Not the church itself, but it was that personal relationship with his father that led him, one of the Polish leaders in all of history, to a place of authority and respect that then impacted billions, literally billions of others. And as I take comfort in that and I ponder that, it tells me this. Fathers, regardless of the challenges and the trauma you may have faced, you still are the dad, the papa. And when you take that difficult road, which may be hard, when you do it in the context with other men, other fathers, and to the extent other family members that can contribute, that will have generational change that will impact the future of Poland as well as the families within.
That year, 2024, Tatonet has its 20th birthday. That's a beautiful date for us. Are there any wishes you would like to give us and all the men in Poland, considering fatherhood, of course?
Well, I would say happy birthday, and I would say simply this: it gets better. As you mature and you look at your legacy and what has been accomplished through your feeble, humble work, it's overwhelming to see how this is affecting children and generations you and I will never see. The power of fatherhood is also an expression of faith. And when faith is applied within family systems, generations yet to be born will be benefited by your leadership in following that narrow path. So I say to TatoNet, its supporters and leaders, keep up that good work. It is vital. It will make a difference when all around are looking for hope. You provide that hope of a healthy, positive future.
Thank you, Dr. Ken, for that words. Thank you. That would be the finish. So I would say thank you for our conversation, and keep your fingers crossed and all the prayers for fathers in Poland and in all over the world. Thank you.
You're welcome, and I look forward always to invitations to come and join you in the celebration annually and at other times when our paths can cross. So I say, God bless you, fathers. Keep up that good work.
Thank you for joining us on TatoNet Podcast. TatoNet, Discovering Fatherhood.